Get him inside. I'll see what I can do. Ask your questions later. Can't you see he needs help?
Don't direct me, wife. I'd already made up my mind. Now, not you two. Anto and I will carry you. You two can wait in the barn. And don't touch anything, or don't steal anything, or I'll put the patrol on you.
You just take care of him.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Ape Nation, your number one source for all things Planet of the Apes on YouTube. My name is Josh, and today I'm giving my review of episode 4 of the 1974 Planet of the Apes TV series. If you like what I do here and want to show your support, be sure to hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. This is a series of reviews following every single episode of the show, all leading to a full series review later this year. And if you haven't seen my reviews of the previous episodes, you can check all of them out right here. For those who want to follow along with my reviews, or you just want to watch the entire show for yourself, I've put a link down in the description where you can watch the show completely free. And as per usual, for those who have not seen the episode yet and don't want to be spoiled, I'll start with my general thoughts up top before going deeper into the episode and giving all of my more detailed thoughts. So if you want to know my thoughts but don't want to be spoiled just yet, you can watch the first part of this video, click off, go watch the episode, and then come back to hear the rest of what I have to say. So with all of that said, let's dive into Planet of the Apes, episode 4, The Good Seeds. When Galen gets injured and is unable to continue traveling, Virdon and Burke seek refuge from Urko and his soldiers with a local chimp and his family on their farm. There's resentment towards the humans at first, but through time and work together, the two sides begin to grow an understanding of each other, breaking down the barrier between humans and apes. So as for my initial thoughts on this episode, I think it is possibly my favorite so far. It might be my second favorite. I haven't fully decided yet. I might kind of figure that out as I talk about it, but it's, I think, a really good episode. I think it's a little slow, and it has one really annoying character that I think sinks this episode a little bit, who was really driving me nuts for the majority of the episode. But for the most part, I really enjoyed the story, and I also appreciated the social commentary on prejudice that it has throughout it, which is something that has been, I think, not completely missing, but a little bit lacking in the last few episodes. Is something that I've always loved about Planet of the Apes, is that social political commentary. And so I like that this episode kind of infuses a little bit of that, as well as some other commentary into it as well. It does feel a little after school, especially by the end of it, just a little bit, but I think it's overall a really endearing episode. The characters are fun. I think the new batch of characters that are introduced, the whole family, I really like for the most part, all of them. And also has some really great character moments with Virdon and Burke and Galen, all three of them. I think this is a very solid character development episode with a lot of really solid moments that I really enjoyed, and so it's really good. I had a lot of fun watching it. I don't know if it's my number one. It might be my number 2 behind episode 3, but I did really enjoy watching it, and I have a lot to say about it. So with all that said, let's dive into my more detailed thoughts. First things first, the chimp family that's introduced at the beginning of this episode that Virdon, Burke, and Galen have to go and hide with for a few days, I think for the most part, right from the jump, I found them all really engaging, and they become very likable throughout the entire episode pretty quickly, minus one that I'll get to in a little bit. But I think Polar and Xantis are very enjoyable characters right off the bat. I think they have a good repertoire with Virdon and Burke that you get to see explored and fleshed out a little bit as the episode goes. And I also really liked Bobby Porter as the character of Remus, the youngest son. And this is the same actor who played Cornelius in Battle for the Planet of the Apes. And I honestly liked him more as this character than I liked him in Battle when he played Cornelius. I just think he had a bit more to do here. His character was a bit more fun to watch and a bit more interesting. And I think he actually just got a little bit more of an opportunity to actually play a real character here. So I really liked him in the role. And I thought he was really surprisingly charismatic charismatic. Something I also really enjoyed is there continuing to be some great musical homages to Jerry Goldsmith's original score. There's a few moments where I was like, that sounds like it was ripped right out of the original movie. So I really appreciate those. Anytime they come up, they continue to happen throughout the entire show. So I'm really liking that. Something I also loved is learning more about ape cultures and practices and beliefs. We get to see things like how gender roles in the ape society works, at least this ape society. This might be a different culture or a different tribe or whatever that is a bit separated from other ape tribes around the world, but with this specific one, you get to see how things like age, traditions, and also their beliefs about humans work and how it impacts their day-to-day life. And I really enjoyed that. It was really cool to see and learn about that kind of stuff. And it also plays into the message and the themes that are at play in the story and the social commentary that's at play in the story, which touches on things like prejudice as well as religion and tradition versus science and progression. And I thought that was really interesting that they put that kind of on full display here throughout a lot of the episode. It's a bit blatant, and like I said at the beginning, it feels a little after school especially at times, but I do think it was pretty effective, and I think it worked in tandem with the story that they were telling. And speaking of the story, it definitely continues that formulaic trend that the episodes have kind of been leaning towards, where they're taking traditional TV story formats that have been seen in dozens of TV shows over the years, although at this time they were still kind of relatively new, but they're taking those formats and they're applying them to these characters and to these stories. But I do think they still find a way to make them compelling, and they find a way to make them interesting and enjoyable to watch. So I didn't mind that at all. I liked the story of these characters having to stay with these new chimp characters for a few days, getting to know them. I thought it was compelling, and I think one of the most compelling aspects of it is kind of a smaller subplot, but it's the relationship that gets formed between the character of Burke and Remus, the youngest son, played by Bobby Porter. I really liked that dynamic, and by the end I was like, these two are really fun together, and I would actually like to see more of their relationship fleshed out throughout the show, assuming these characters come back, which I don't know if they do, but that's something I was really surprisingly latched onto and I thought worked really well. Similarly, I thought the relationship and dynamic between Virdon and Anto worked pretty well, at least by the end of the episode. I thought the way that that character was utilized with Virdon in that relationship that was formed, and how it was also used to flesh out Virdon as a character, because we get to know more about Virdon here. We get to know more about his backstory, his family life, his farm life, which I didn't really know was a thing until now. And it actually got me to start really caring about Virdon a lot more than I had. You know, I'd already really cared about Galen. I already really cared about Burke, but Virdon was kind of more of that stoic, blank slate kind of character that I hadn't really gotten a really good feel on just yet. But I think this episode really started to flesh him out and break down some of his barriers, and I really appreciated that as well. But getting back to the story, like I said, it is a bit formulaic, and I also don't think it really moves the overall story forward that much. There isn't that much that's really achieved, but I think to make up for that, it provides you with a lot of really great character moments. There's great character moments with Galen, there's great character moments with, like I said, Virdon and Burke, and even the new characters. I think the main character of Polar gets some really solid moments, as well as Xantus and as well as Remus. But that leads me to the one character that I was not a big fan of, who I've already kind of mentioned, and that is Anto. That is probably my biggest issue with this episode, is the character of Anto. I just found him really annoying, and I found him really needlessly instigating and very over the top throughout the entire episode. I think the concept of a character like that can work. It could have been done well, but here I just found him grating. I found him over the top. I found him really silly and ridiculous, and it just felt like a character that was out of a completely different story to me. He just felt so much more extreme than the rest of the family. Like I said, it talks about prejudice throughout, and we see their ideas and their beliefs about humans and how they treat them and how they feel about them and how that affects the way they treat and are resistant to accepting Virdon and Burke. But I think there's a limit to it, whereas with Anto, there is no limit. It's at level 100, whereas everyone else is at like a 50, you know? And so I just found his character very ridiculous at times. That being said, I think by the end, he does have some good growth that I appreciated and enjoyed. You can kind of see it coming, but still, I thought it worked well and I enjoyed it. And I also thought that Jeff Duell did a fantastic job in showing a lot of acting range in this episode. You see him actually play almost two different versions of the character. Even though I don't like one version of that character, I think he does a great job in both. So I was really impressed in that regard. There's another couple small issues I had with it. The other two really are just, and honestly, this might just be a thing that happened a lot in 70s television. I'm not aware of it because I don't watch a lot of 70s television, but there were a couple shots that had like blacked out little pieces around the edges of the frame. I don't know what that was about. Maybe it was just no one would really notice at the time, so they never bothered to clean it up. But that was a weird little technical issue that I noticed a couple of times. And then the other thing is I just thought the pacing was a little too too slow. I think they could have picked up the pace, or at the very least maybe injected a little more action or a little more meat into this episode at times, but for the most part I thought it worked and I enjoyed it overall. And so when it comes to episode 4, I thought it was a really solid episode. I really enjoyed it a lot. It's probably my second favorite, right behind number 3, The Trap, which I think is still my favorite episode by far, but this was a really close second. I just think it's not as tight and its flaws knock it down a little bit. But those were my overall thoughts. It's really enjoyable. I love the characters. I kind of hope they come back. I don't know if they will, but I really hope they come back at some point in the show. And I enjoyed the character development that we got and the social commentary that we got and the way it's all used. And I think the story overall, while formulaic, is really enjoyable. So those are my thoughts on episode 4 of Planet of the Apes, The Good Seeds. But I want to know what you guys have to say about this episode. Did you like it as much as I did, or do you find it to be one of the lesser episodes of the show? What do you think of my points? Do you agree with them? Do you disagree with them? How did you feel about Anto? Did you also think he was annoying, or am I an outlier in that? I want to know all your thoughts in the comments down below. I will be back next week once again with my review of the next episode in the Planet of the Apes TV series, episode 5. But until then, thank you so much for checking out today's video here on Ape Nation. If you liked this video, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so that you can stay up to date on all things apes. I'll catch you in the next one, so until then, goodbye.